In graph 29.4, we introduced different social indifference maps encompassing different philosophical criteria about what it is that society ought to care about. We did this in the context of a utility possibility frontier that was symmetric around the 45-degree line, and so all of the social indifference maps that we introduced led to the same choice on the utility possibility frontier. In this graph here, we'll explore other utility possibility frontiers, and we'll particularly focus on the two second best utility possibility frontiers introduced in graph 29.2. In deriving the second best utility possibility frontiers in graph 29.2, we assume that individual 1 initially starts with all the endowment in the economy, and that the only way to provide utility to individual 2 is to use distortionary redistributive taxation. When we maximize social welfare using the Rawlsian social indifference map introduced in panel C of graph 29.3, we would choose the utility levels on the 45-degree line of this second best utility possibility frontier. If we instead use the social indifference map that cares only about the overall level of utility and not how utility is distributed, we would choose the point B on the second best utility possibility frontier. It's therefore now no longer the case that the two indifference maps will lead to the same choice. Less extreme social indifference maps, like the one in panel B of graph 29.3, would lead to a choice that lies somewhere between points A and B. Individual 1's behavior may adjust sufficiently as tax rates rise, such that tax revenue, which can then be given to individual 2, actually falls as the tax rate increases. This would then imply a second best utility possibility frontier, such as the one in panel B. In this case, not even the Rawlsian social indifference map will choose a point on the 45-degree line as the socially optimal point. Put differently, when we attempt to maximize the welfare of the least well-off individual, it doesn't necessarily imply that the outcome will be complete equality. But a social indifference map that places all the emphasis on the overall utility level and not how utility is distributed will still result in greater inequality than the Rawlsian indifference map. The one thing that all social indifference maps share in common is an implicit consequentialist view of normative economics. In other words, what matters when we employ social indifference maps is the consequences or the outcomes of different ways of arranging society. An alternative approach puts less emphasis on the consequences and more emphasis on the initial conditions and the rules under which people make decisions. Robert Nozick, a contemporary of John Rawls, argued that an outcome is fair or just if the initial conditions were fair and just, and if people make choices under rules that are fair and just. The consequentialist approach may be particularly misleading when instead of measuring utilities on the two axes, we measure income or wealth. This is because in labor markets, we have what is known as compensating differentials. Jobs that are considered to be fun and pleasant may carry a lower wage, whereas jobs that are considered dangerous and risky may carry a higher wage. If all we look at is income, we may find the distribution of income across these two types of jobs unfair or unjust. But when we consider the fact that the two jobs carry different utility levels in the absence of wage considerations, the wage differential might in fact be perfectly just, even under the Rawlsian criteria.